I love you.
I love you too, but I don't like you all the time.
11 points will bring you. Guys, don't make me laugh now. Ready?
Oh my goodness. What is it that makes the world and the experience of our children so amazing to us? You know, every time we have kids as a part of our Sunday morning experience at Unity on the Bay, I find all of our hearts leave just a little bit lighter and a little bit brighter, and it's a beautiful thing. I believe that it's in part because being in the presence of children or infants or toddlers reminds us of what I'm going to call the BC version of ourselves. That's before conditioning. Before the world came along and, so to speak, tarnished us with all these false ideas, these erroneous beliefs about who we are and what we're doing here. And so when we're in the presence of children, and this is certainly true for myself, I sort of am reminded of a part of me that has never left me. You know, a lot of us believe that we've grown up to become responsible, mature adults in the world. But the reality is the child within us never actually leaves. And trust me, it always wants to come out and play if you just give it the opportunity. It also wants to be allowed to be given the license to express compassion and understanding and love and kindness in ways that for many of us the world of adulthood has caused us to forget. I'm using the world of audio-visual support this morning to share with you the story of a little 3-year-old girl named Emily. Emily, throughout her life, has never had her hair cut, but it's gotten to the point where it's become something of a nuisance in her world. So it's time for the big cut on her part. And she makes a beautiful decision that I believe helps us to remember that children are our teachers every bit as much, if not more so, than we are their teachers.
Sometimes kids get sick. And then their hair falls out. That's really, really sad. My name is Emily James and I'm 3 years old. This is my Uncle Matthew. He gets my hair. I don't want any kids that be sad that they have no hair. What I want to do is give them my hair. Because I have more hair, I can just cut some of the hair off and give it to someone. I try to stay nice and still when Matthew cuts my hair. I think Uncle Matthew is the best haircut in the world. Can't wait to look just like my dolly. Wow, me and my dolly look so pretty.
I think it's the qualities of compassion and generosity and somehow understanding the predicament of our fellow human beings that come naturally to children like Emily. And I believe they come naturally to you and me, my friends, when we simply remember the reality of who we are. You may or may not agree with me this morning, but as I'm standing before you, I want to make the proposal that we are, each and every one of us, children. We're children more than we are responsible adults in the world. We're children because remember that our way shower and our teacher, Jesus Christ, said that we were children of God. And I believe he used that word intentionally because the behavior of a child over an adult is quite different. And that's what I want to explore with you this morning. Back in the 1990s, which was a difficult decade for me, a lot of you know that, I call it the decade of therapy. And the reason for that is that I was engaged in every kind of therapy I could possibly get my arms wrapped around. I was such a troubled person at the time, and I went to group therapy, and I went to one-on-one therapy, and I went to this thing called, and I did have a bit of resistance, inner child therapy. But I was interested in finding answers. So I was sitting in a room, there was a circle of us, and the facilitator, one by one, took us through a process. It came my turn, and I just thought, this is really kind of ridiculous, but I'll go along with it. What the hell, I paid for the session, so I might as well get my money's worth. So he comes to me and says, okay, Chris, close your eyes. I'm closing my eyes. I want you to imagine that you're in a very peaceful place, and suddenly I realize I'm in the center of this meadow, and there are trees all around me. And he says, I want you to look around until you see your inner child. And I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm feeling really ridiculous because after all, there can't possibly be a little child, a little kid in me. I'm a full-grown adult. And all of a sudden, from the darkness behind the trees, I see these two eyes looking into my own. And he says, now, once you see the inner child, call it forth and invite it to come toward you. So I did that, and there was this little guy who was so shy and so preoccupied, like a sense of trepidation about him. He was not very, he was skittish. So he's staying back a bit, and he comes forward very slowly, and I thought, well, this can't be my inner child because I've never been known to be skittish or shy like that. But he came forward, and as he did, the facilitator asked me to ask him what his name was, and I said, what is your name? And he said, "My name is Andy." And we were asked to invite this little child to come over and sit with us, and so I did. And he was, again, very, very slow to respond, but ultimately he came over to me, and I could see that he had felt neglected. I could see that he had felt as though he was questioning his value. And not but a few moments after that, my vision was suddenly drawn back into the trees again and the darkness behind him, and I saw another pair of eyes. And this time, a little boy came forward. He was much more forward, in fact, almost in my face, almost mildly obnoxious and very cantankerous. And I could see that Andy was concerned about the behavior of this other kid. And in that moment, I realized that my spiritual childhood was schizophrenic. I didn't have one inner child. I had two inner children. And so I said, "Okay, well, what's your name?" He said, "My name is Trevor," which happens to be the name of one of the most obnoxious little boys that I had ever known when I was teaching Sunday school back at Unity Village. So I knew where that name came from. And gradually, I could begin to see that these two little children didn't have much love and respect for each other. Gradually, over the years, I realized they were very real aspects of my own character that, though I had forgotten, still continued to live in me. And I've learned to sense honor the trepidation that Andy felt, or feels to this day sometimes, as well as to appreciate the boldness of Trevor. So these two aspects of myself I have come to recognize, and sometimes I even consult with them. Before you think I'm absolutely out of my mind, let me just say that I believe these qualities, these characteristics of the child dwell in all people, and that it's important and healthy and balanced to let them up and let them out and let them play and let them live in the spontaneity that so many of us have forgotten about. This morning, I'm going to utilize two different models for us to consider as we contemplate the reality of this inner child, or this quality that dwells within us. The first one is called the conditioned child. And the conditioned child is that one that has had layer upon layer of social conditioning laid upon it so that it sometimes barely recognizes that it's alive. The qualities of the conditioned child begin with guilt. One of the things I love that we often say about Unity on the Bay is no guilt, no shame, just God. Because so many of us, whether we realize it or not, have been running around on this planet with a sense of guilt, a sense of shame, a sense of somehow believing that we've done something terribly wrong, though for the life of us we cannot remember what it is. But it's really, really wrong. And of course, organized religion and authority figures have come along to support and enforce that, primarily for one reason, I personally believe, and that is to assert control over us. Because if we feel guilty enough, if we feel shameful enough, we'll cooperate with whatever it is that's being requested. But it's not part of the child of God, my friends, that dwells in you. That child is guilt-free. That child is free of shame. The next quality of the conditioned child is that of knowledge, or the belief that somehow the information that I hold in my mind or in my consciousness measures my worth as an individual. And for those of us that believe in that approach, we're often out there trying to get our hands on as much information as we possibly can, because we believe that knowledge or accumulated information is somehow going to save us. And it's important. The next quality of the conditioned child is arrogance. And that is the idea that somehow you or I or anybody anywhere can increase their sense of self-esteem by putting other people down. You can see that this is learned very early in our process on this planet, because one of the greatest issues facing us today is that of the bullies that are in our school that are putting into practice the idea of somehow increasing their own sense of self-worth by decreasing the sense of self-worth of others, which makes absolutely no sense at all and simply results in the next quality of the conditioned child, which is pain. And this child is very painful indeed, not only because of what has been inflicted upon it from outside authorities, circumstances, and individuals, but also because they believe they have made mistakes in the past. They have sorrows that they're still holding on to from yesterday, and many regrets. That's a heavy burden indeed, my friends. And all of this is kind of wrapped up under the umbrella of the word fear. The idea that we have to really remain guarded. When I first meet you, I have to be very guarded and very careful, because you could be the evil one. You could be the evil one, and the evil one is always out to get us. This goes right back into the origins of the realm of duality, that there's a devil, there's a Satan out there, and I got to keep my eyes open because it could show up at any minute and all hell could literally break loose. These are aspects that the conditioned child within us has learned to believe and to accept. And I want you in this room to consider taking on a different model. That's to recognize yourself, my friends, as a child of God, as a child of divinity, as a child of the infinite. And consider these qualities. Innocence. You're not guilty of anything. You didn't do anything wrong. If you think you did something wrong, check out your belief system, because believing that you think you did something wrong could be something wrong. I am innocent and I'm unashamed of who I am. I am unashamed of who I am. Say that with me. I am unashamed of who I am. Now be careful, because when you get home this afternoon, any level or layer of shame that you're still holding on to will surface and rise in the power of that statement. You've said, I'm unashamed. I'm not going to walk in this world making apologies for who I am or what I am or how I show up in life. Wonder. I am constantly curious and delightfully surprised. I don't have it all figured out. My mind is open. I am checking out each occurrence of my life as it unfolds. I'm here for the first time right now in this moment. I'm not covering it with prejudice from the past or expectation from the future. Humility. I walk with a meek spirit. I don't know about you, but I have found that humility is true power. And the moment that I forget to be humble is the moment I have no power. I'm out there trying to be demonstrative all the time. That's a dangerous place to be, my friends. Recognize that you are a child of God, and it is the child's responsibility to remain in a state of conscious awareness of humility. Humility, that this is being done through me. To whatever degree I succeed in my life, it's because there's something greater that is inherent in everyone, and it's working through all of us. Joy, I am perpetually grateful for miracles in my midst. You see, the conditioned child forgets that everything is miraculous in nature. The conditioned child forgets that there are things going on in your body right now that are just freaking amazing. They're miraculous. You forget what's happening. You forget that your heart is beating. How'd that happen? I don't know. That your blood is circulating. Got that one figured out? Not me. Then you forget that every time a sun rises or you take a breath, you have cause to be thankful. You forget that miracles are happening in your midst all the time. When you realize that, you're not going to be concerned about being a happy person anymore, because you'll realize happiness is a fleeting thing. It can come and it can go. But joy is eternal in nature. Joy comes from opening your eyes to realizing the miracles wrapped up in this moment right now. And finally, love. You know, it was about 3 years ago that I was asleep in the middle of the night. My dog, my big 85-pound lab spirit, who passed away last year, almost about a year ago, but 3 years ago, I woke up to the fact that she had fallen off the bed onto the floor, apparently the result of the fact that she had vertigo. And I couldn't reach a vet, and I couldn't get her up. She was too heavy, and it was just an awkward evening, and I just went into a state of prayer, and I held her until the early morning hours when I could get some help to come over and assist me in getting her in the car and off to the animal hospital. But as I was sitting there, and you remember I told you this, my dog spoke to me. It's the only time a dog has ever spoken to me. And she just said two things. She said, life is short, and love is important. I think that little children know this, but somehow as we grow up and mature on this planet, we get the idea we're going to be here forever. As one who has been through many decades of my existence on this planet, let me tell you, I do realize I'm not going to be here forever. I realized over the past 3 months, as my mother has gone through her trials and tribulations, she's not going to be here forever either. But she is going to be here a little while longer. After major abdominal surgery, a heart attack 2 weeks ago, she came home 2 days ago, and the woman is walking. She blows me away. She blows me away. So being the child that I'm encouraging you all to be, this morning I wrote all these qualities on the fingers of this hand. And I just want to review them with you in closing now. Innocence. No matter what the world has told you about how bad, guilty, and shameful you are, please do not believe it. Wonder. Keep your eyes open at all times. There are miracles in your experience that are happening right here and right now. Humility. Always remain humble. Keep your heart open. Realize where all the goodness and greatness is coming from. It's not from the you that you've created. It's from the God that has created you. Joy. Keep a sense of spontaneity. Keep yourself alive. Don't be pursuing happiness, my friends. Get down into your heart and say, what I want here is more joy. And I'm going to receive that joy as I open myself to playing and laughing and loving in this world more and more with each passing day. And finally, life is short. Love is important. Let's remember this so that we don't allow a single moment of the blessing of our fleeting experience on this planet to go unnoticed. Every morning, every noontime, and every night. Thank you, God. 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 And I very much love you. God bless you.